welcome to another episode of IconicFreedom, the formula. We are setting the standard for accountability, the ownership of your choices, and responsibility, the ability to respond to those choices. Let each care for self, and all will be cared for. So when I talk about the formula and setting a standard, really what I'm talking about is pulling the elements, like think of the periodic chart, pulling elements into your world, into your standards, for where you are able to respond to choices that you make. You take ownership of those choices, and you also take ownership of the outcomes, and that's your accountability. The consequences that come from whatever those outcomes are when you make those choices. I need to make sure I repeat that often at the beginning of these podcasts, because there's always new people, and if someone's listening to it and they've never heard this podcast before, they're probably thinking, well, what the hell is this guy talking about? So for today, I wanted to forensically talk about letting go of attachment, and attachment specifically to outcomes. I want to break this down just a little bit, that when you make a choice, then there is a action that happens from the choice, whatever it is. And you can kind of test this hypothesis yourself, and you can kind of see for yourself. You make a choice, and then something happens as a result of the choice. There's an action that happens. There is a response from someone. There's a response from life in general. That response, that outcome, is something that you are accountable for. If I were to, let's say, if I were to slap you across the face, then whatever your response would be is on me, because I'm the one that instigated that, if you will. And so the response that you would have from doing that would be on me, right? Now, you could try to manage your response to that. Maybe you would not punch back or whatever, but the reality is that if I was in a court of law, somebody would say, did you slap that person or did you punch that person? And the facts are, yes, I did. Now, the reasons why are irrelevant. Court of law will talk about, defense of self. And of course, naturally we do that, but law is very clear and clean about that if someone is harming you, that you have an inherent right, which you do. I don't need anybody's permission to defend myself, that you defend yourself, and the law will back you up. Which, when you think about it, it's actually quite beautiful in the way it's executed, if it's executed well. And what does that mean? Well, if people stick to the facts and to what is actually happening. So when we forensically are looking at something, we're breaking it down to understand the mechanisms of it. How does it actually work? Because there is perhaps a lack of understanding that if I make a choice, because you do make a choice in everything that you do, I make a choice to talk to you. I make a choice for this microphone. I make a choice for the software I use. Everything is a choice that you're doing in life. Everything is a choice. Those choices you have to be able to respond to. That's your response ability, the ability to respond. The outcome of whatever that choice is what you are accountable for. When you're thinking about an accountant, what does an accountant do? It puts together a ledger. Here is all of the dollars. Let's use a bank account. That here's all the dollars that you brought in. Here's all the dollars you spent. This is an accountability. This is how this breaks down. This is what it looks like in its aggregate. Well, cross-apply that to your life, because that's what that is. You have an accountability for every choice you make. I make a choice, that's on my ledger. Now I have an outcome, that's on my ledger. There's a plus and a minus. That's how it goes. It always balances out. There's always an in and an out. There's a moving towards something and away from it. There's always that dynamic that is happening consistently when it comes to outcomes. Now, the reason to forensically look at this for yourself is then to understand that I make the contribution to whatever is happening and what the outcome of the choice is. So everything that comes out of your mouth, basically, every action that you take, you're making a choice. You have to have the ability to respond to the choice. You don't jump off of a building if you don't have a parachute, unless you're trying to kill yourself. And then, of course, you don't really care. That's also a choice. But you don't jump out of an airplane, you don't jump off of a building unless you have a parachute. So you're taking the responsibility for the choice that you're about to make so that you can respond to the choice. The choice is, I want to jump out of an airplane. So I have to be response-able. I have to be able to respond to the choice of jumping out of the airplane. So what do I do for myself? I prepare, I train, I figure it out. I might have a guide with me. I have a parachute. These are the responsibilities that I take in making the choice. The accountability, then, just to backtrack on that, is whatever the outcome is, that's on me, because I made those choices. Now, it doesn't negate and it doesn't absolve someone if they were nefarious in putting together my parachute and they didn't do it properly and they knew it was going to cause me to die. But I still made the choice. You understand that piece of it. I still made the choice to put the parachute in there, put it on my back, jump out of the plane, and pull the ripcord. Now, if I relied on somebody else to put that parachute in there and they didn't do it properly, that's on me. But if I did it, then I'm also responsible, right? I'm also accountable for whatever that outcome is. Okay, so in today's forensically looking at outcomes, the reason that I want to look at this and dissect it is to understand what is it about outcomes that drives us. Because every time we make a choice to go do something, it's because we have a desire. I've talked about motivation and self-interest. Everything you do, right? Every breath you take, every move you make, you are watching you make a choice that you have to respond to, and you are accountable for whatever that outcome is and everything that follows from that outcome. But if your outcomes are rooted in control or trying to manipulate people, then you're going to make choices that are going to go in that direction because you're attached to the outcome. What would that look like? So let's say that you're in a relationship and you're wanting that person to feel a particular way about you. Then you might start making choices to try to influence them rather than just be yourself and let them see who you are. And if they care about you, then they will care about you. And if they don't care about you, they don't care about you. That's how that works. But if you're trying to manipulate people, you're trying to build an image, then you might do certain things. You might say certain things. You might act a particular way. You're attached to an outcome. What about a job? Maybe you want to apply for a job. And so you're looking at the idea that how do I need to present myself? And if you're trying to image build, because maybe it's not really who you are, then maybe you would do things that would try to influence the other person by the things that you say or the way that you dress or how you come across because you're attached to an outcome. But what happens when you have a desire, you want to do something, and you're just making choices that you know are right for you, And you're going to let go of the outcome and see where it goes. Now, what does that do? When you let go of your attachment to an outcome, you're allowing life to unfold. And you, because you are responsible for your choices, and you're accountable, and you've developed that in yourself, then you can let go of the outcome, knowing, trusting for self. Trust only belongs to you, not others. Trusting for yourself that whatever the outcome is, I'm going to figure it out. I'll figure out what my next move is. So let's go back to the parachute. So you jump out of the plane, you pull the ripcord, and it's not working. So you know that there is an emergency ripcord. There's an emergency cord that you pull in such instances, right? And so if you've double-checked that for yourself, you pull that and then it works and you land and everything's hunky-dory. But if you haven't checked any of it, and you crash to the ground and you die. So who is the person that is responsible for your death? Well, you probably won't like this, but you, because you didn't check your parachute. You didn't check your ripcord. You didn't check the safety things that were part of your choice that you were responsible for. You had to have an ability to respond to jumping out of an airplane, not leaving that to everyone else, thinking, oh, well, they're the expert, I should just turn it over to them. No. That's not what we do with our lives, because when we do that, then we become a victim to our own choices. And I go back to that statement of life isn't happening to you, it's happening because of you. You made a choice to do or not do. You made a choice to look out for your own safety. Okay, so these things that happen, and they happen rapidly as you are making choices throughout your entire day, throughout your life. If you let go of the outcome, but you know, because I've consciously made the choice, and I'm conscious within, I'm being aware of my surroundings, of my choices, of what I'm doing, then I'm going to move through life in a conscientious way. I'm not going to be whimsically running through life and just doing whatever I want and not paying attention to how life and everything around me is responding. Because the fact is that everyone is doing the same thing. So if you think that you're walking around whimsically doing whatever you want, not caring about your choices, imagine billions of people doing the same thing. So that's where it's like, okay, well, listen, I can't fix them, but I can fix me. So then you start looking at, what are my choices? What are the responsibilities of my choices? What is the accountability of my choice? And what are the outcomes? And I make a conscious choice to do something, and then I let go of that outcome, and I wait to see how it unfolds, trusting that whatever happens, I can respond to it. When you let go of outcomes, you create a freedom for yourself, and I can tell you from my own experience and from watching other people, it is, you can't buy it. It's a freedom from everything that you've probably been brainwashed with your entire life. Every, standard that society wants to put on you that you didn't decide for self. It's every rule, it's every legislation, it's every law. And believe me, there are stupid legislation and stupid laws out there. Stupid rules. I mean, we know that. But when you decide for self, and you let go of the outcome, that you're not holding on to it so tight, wanting to make sure that it goes the way you want, because life doesn't always go the way you want. But if you trust yourself and you say, okay, you know what? I'm going to make a choice and see what happens. You can sit there and try to perfect every choice you make and never be able to do anything, because you're trying to seek perfection rather than seek enjoyment. And when you seek enjoyment and you know that you're accountable and responsible for the choices, you will naturally make choices that are right for you and would do no harm to self or others. So a couple of things that I want to talk about, and I took notes for myself during the week as they occurred to me, because I wanted to make sure I brought them up, because when things like that come to me, I always think, I enjoy talking about these things and conveying this information and hoping that I share it in such a way that it's useful, because I love it when people share their insights with me, because obviously I don't know everything, right? And neither do you. So it's kind of cool. And one of the things that occurs to me is that when we are forensically letting go of an attachment, letting go isn't detachment from caring. It's a release from ownership of the outcome. And that's what I want this episode to be for you. It's not about not caring, but it's about liberating yourself from this illusion or delusion that you can control people, that you can control the outcome, or that you can control the future, when that's not a reality, right? Reality is defined. Reality is the absence of emotion in observing whatever is happening before you. So I think I said this last week, is that trying to control other people, I mean, it's really like trying to control the weather. Like, good luck with that. All you can really do is manage your choices in the face of somebody else's choices, and respond to whatever the impact is. It's like responding to the weather. If you think it's going to rain, you take an umbrella. Then you can respond to the rain. You open up your umbrella. I mean, that's how it works. But I will tell you that the moment you put a grip or you get tighter is often the moment that everything will start to slip away from you. Because control is an illusion, and it will never create what it is that you think you want. It will give you a delusion that you're doing something, but in the end, in the aggregate, when you look back at it, it never brought you what you wanted. I think that, control is fear, and it's dressed up as logic and justification, which I think is interesting, is that people think that they're justified and they're logically doing something, and that's why they're controlling. I used that example last week of the parent that is guiding a child as opposed to the adult who is trying to control another person's behavior and the outcome. And what kind of a person are you that would do that? I mean, that's kind of sick behavior. If you're an adult and you're trying to control other people by manipulating them, by the things you say and do, that's some pretty sick behavior. When you go into emotion, you go out of reality. You've heard me say that quite a bit this year. And control is quite often, control can be disguised as responsibility. But when you think about it, solid, true responsibility is being accountable for your response, not for their behavior of the other person. Let me say that again. True responsibility is being accountable for your response, not for the behavior of the other person. True responsibility is being accountable for your response, not the behavior of the other person. You cannot control the other person, but your responsibility in being accountable for your response. Go back to the weather. You being responsible, right? Your true responsibility is being accountable for your response to the weather. Whether if you have an umbrella or you don't, you have a coat or you don't. I often see that the outcome and the attachment to an outcome is people clinging to it because they're in fear. And consider this, right, for yourself, is that clinging to outcomes generates fear. It might generate guilt. It might generate shame, worry, maybe impatience. That you're clinging to the outcome because you are spiraling, let's say, into all of these emotions, and you're not being out of the emotions and into reality and realizing I make a choice and I wait to see how things work out, and then I make another choice and I wait to see how things work out, and then I make another choice. Attachment can really become a manipulative strategy, right? And how does that work? Basically by what I said before, which is, how can I make sure that this goes my way? And then you start doing things to try to make it go your way. And then what happens when it doesn't go your way? Well, then you get upset, or you get in fear. Oh my gosh, this isn't going to go the way I want. Or then you feel guilty because maybe you did something that hurt somebody else. Maybe you feel shame about that. Or you start worrying, oh my God, I shouldn't have done it that way. I should have done it this way. Because you're not trusting yourself to be able to manage your own life. And all these emotions, they signal a lack of trust in your ability to respond to whatever presents itself. And that's a place that you want to get away from. You want to know for yourself that, look, I can respond to all of my choices. Attachment to outcomes fuels fear of not getting what you think you want. And then it distorts the choices that you make. Attachment to outcomes will fuel fears of not getting what you think you want. And when you don't get what you think you want, then it starts to distort the choices that you make. Because now you're thinking, well, what's the next manipulative thing that I can do? What's the next thing that I could cajole out of somebody to get it to go the way I want? Rather than just saying, listen, maybe this doesn't serve me. Maybe this job, maybe this relationship, maybe these people, maybe it doesn't serve me. But you're not going to get there if you're holding on to what you've created in your mind as the way it should go. This is what your intention is. I'm making the choice. I would like to do that. Let's see what happens. I'm going to make these choices and I'm going to apply for that job, or I'm going to say hello to that person or have coffee with them, and we'll see where it goes. We have no idea. Let it unfold. But attachment isn't just to the outcomes. It's also to the image and the ideology. If you have got rules set up about life and that's your ideology, then you're going to get attached to whatever the outcome is of whatever choice that you're making, trying to get it to go that way, because you have a rule and that's the rule. If I say the rule is, whenever people fly, whenever they get on an airplane, they should be wearing a suit and tie like I do. Well, if that's my ideology, then, what am I going to be doing with that? I'm going to get judgmental of other people. I'm going to look down on them. I might mistreat them. I might give them a look. I might try to shame them. It's like, why do you care? And it's all because of what? Oh, because I'm trying to build an image of myself. I'm trying to look like I'm this good person. I'm this outstanding, upstart kind of individual, upstanding individual in life. No, I do it because I like it for myself. That my father and my grandfather, that's how they set that standard for themselves, and I adopted it because I liked it. If I didn't like it, I wouldn't do it. When you are attached to how you look, or how you're seen, or how you're perceived, that image building, that attachment to your image, you're not free. You're not living in freedom. And honestly, you are imprisoned, if you will, by your own ego and your own insecurity. If you are attached to an image of yourself. Maybe you get a lot of praise or accolades for the things that you've done in life. You've won all kinds of awards, and you've gone up the corporate ladder and everything. If you have attached yourself to all of that, then you really are not free, because what is happening then is, how are you going to reach the next apex of your life? What are you going to have to do? Who do you have to step on? Who do you have to manipulate or control to get there? It really suppresses an opportunity, I think, because you're clinging to a persona instead of responding to life. You're so focused on, who you are in that sense, your image building, that then when everything's going on in front of you, you can't respond to it. I'm more concerned about how I look than this genuine interaction with whoever this person is in front of me. And honestly, when you give up and let go of the attachment to image building, you will create a freedom to be your true self. And it'll be through solid responsibility and accountability. It'll be who you are, and you will let go of the outcome, and you will start to emerge as who you are, who you want to be, not what society wants you to be, not what your parents or your siblings or your partner or whatever. You will be who you want to be. I mean, when you think about this, that image becomes a life preserver. You think that it's a life preserver, that I'm building my image and this is my life preserver. But what you don't realize is it's an anchor. Ooh, that's brilliant. Write that down. Your image, curated, if you will, you think becomes a life preserver, and it's really an anchor. Because now you are tied to it for the rest of your life, rather than just saying, I am going to develop these qualities that no one can take from me: being responsible, being accountable, letting go of the outcome, do no harm to others. I have that. I have all I need to manage and navigate this life and be able to enjoy it. There's a lot of desire for connection. And, I say that sometimes it's in conflict with your fear of vulnerability, in a sense. A lot of people, they do crave a deep connection. Now, that deep connection can be to other people. But you know what? That deep connection can be to life itself and to nature, and enjoying the interaction that you have with your universe. But if the desire collides with fear, then it's going to feel impossible. And for some people, they're just going to give up. And if it feels possible, they might grip too tightly and maybe squeeze the life out of something. But it's all because of fear, right? So we always say you move towards something or you move away from it. If something feels impossible, you just give up. You're like, why should I bother? You were on your diet and you had a cookie and you're like, oh, well, now I've ruined it. And so then, for the rest of the day, the rest of the week, the rest of the month, you've decided it doesn't matter. When it's like, it's a moment of deciding something and then you move to the next moment. If it feels possible and you go to the extreme, then what you might do is grip too tightly. And when you do that, what does that do? That sends people in the other direction. I'm going to control everything that I put in my mouth, to the extent that, maybe you become bulimic or anorexic. And, bulimia isn't just about, people sticking their finger down their throat. It's also about too much exercise, trying to Ozempic yourself out of something. It's that kind of stuff. These emotional extremes will really create a dysfunction of dynamics for you. Because if you think about this, real connection requires the release, not the possession. Real connection requires the release of the wanting to possess something. That silly saying, that people used to say, oh, if you love something, set it free. And if it comes back to you, blah, blah, blah. But the thing is that outside of that, who cares? But the release of it isn't the release of the other person. It's the release of you. It's the release of the burden of you trying to control and to own something that you don't own. It's the release of trying to possess something you don't possess. It's to free you up. The other person's going to do whatever they're going to do. The situation is going to do whatever it's going to do. But it's you that gets to experience the freedom. And just, I want to make sure I don't leave this podcast without saying this, is that letting go isn't giving up. It's opening up. If you think about it, that letting go of the outcomes, it's not giving up. It's not going, okay, well, whatever. It's not giving up. It's opening up to all the other possibilities that are out there. If you were in say you were in a relationship that you didn't really like, or you were at a job that you didn't really like, but you're just like, oh, well, I'm just burdened by this, so I'm just going to, you just give up, and I'm just going to be in it and just tolerate it, and I'm going to fight it all the way and until you die. But if you decide, okay, I'm going to pivot and go in this other direction, but that's not giving up. That's just saying, listen, this doesn't serve me any longer, and I'm going to be responsible, and I'll be accountable. I'm going to make my choices, and I'm going to move away from this. And now I have opened myself up to the many possibilities. Come on, you have friends out there, family members, that you've listened to them, coworkers maybe, where they talk about they've been in a bad relationship for a decade or whatever it is, and they suddenly decided to pack their bags and leave. And when they do, they opened up their life and all the other possibilities to come their way so that they could enjoy their life. And they look back later on and they're like, how did I ever tolerate that? But that's what you did. You tolerated it, right? You don't lose love, say, of another person, or, you don't lose any of that connection by releasing control. You lose it when your control replaces what you are trying to do. When you lose your connection to life when you try to control it. What is the reason that you lose it? Because you can't control it, right? When you release attachment, you make space for reality, for the truth. And when you do that, your life will open up. You'll experience that freedom that I've talked about and the enjoyment of that. But you have to let go of the outcome. You have to say, I'm making the choice and I'm letting go of whatever the outcome is. I'm going to let it unfold. I'm going to have curiosity and excitement and enthusiasm of what's to come. And if it seems like something I don't want, oh, okay, well, I'll make a choice in another direction. If I start to go down a hallway and there's no stairs to get down, oh, okay, well, then I'm going to turn around and go the other way. Are you judging the choice that you made that got you to the end of the hallway where there's no stairs? No, you turn around and you find another direction. But you don't even think about it. You think about, oh, no, I can't go out that way. I'm going to go this way instead. There's no judgment in that, right? It's just, oh, okay, great. I'm going to go the other way. And then off you go. And it's the same thing with all your other choices. You let things unfold. You see where it goes. I trust myself when I get to the end of the hallway and there's no stairs that I will turn around and go the other way. I'm not going to keep running into the wall. I'm not going to try to open a door that is no longer there or available to me. I'm going to turn around and I'm going to go down the other way and I'm going to find a path. I'm going to find a way. And we are at the end of another podcast. Wow, it goes so fast for me sometimes. That's kind of interesting. So, hey, listen, if anything of this moved you and you got anything out of it, hey, please share it with your family and friends. You never know if it might help them. All the great links to follow me on X, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all that stuff's down below. Until next time, stay sharp, stay free, and let each care for self, and all will be cared for.